Hey, welcome back. This is the second part of just simple sketching or observational drawing. And so I just wanted to kind of shore you up that you can do this and that it doesn't have to be as hard as you think. So I am going to start the slideshow. Okay, simple sketching. So first off, we're going to look at this. This is a waterfall in Utah. Many of you might recognize it. It's Bridalveil Falls. And as you think about, I want to draw Bridalveil Falls, and then you get out your sketchbook and you're like, oh my gosh, that is overwhelming. So much information, so much visual information. You have the colors, you have the lines, you have the rocks, you have the bushes, and you have the trees. And it can just be so daunting. I know I feel like every time I go to sketch something, my first reaction is, whoa, I don't know that I can do this. But when I remember, break it up into simple shapes and start from there, just like what we talked about in part one of this video. So I'm going to show you breaking this up into shapes. It's one thing to do like scissors or a pencil or an orange or, something that's a lot more simple. It's a little trickier when you have so much visual information. So, but it's the same process. So you see in this video, I've broken it up into shapes. Now, granted, I've traced over the photo, which is not what you do when you sketch. You're looking at something and then you're translating it onto your paper. So, but for the sake of illustrating this, and I did this with my finger on my phone, so it looks really wonky. But you notice maybe the triangle right here would be the only real geometric shape, but I've just broken it up into sections and I start there. You can do that part. It is not hard. One thing I want to add to what we talked about when we talk about breaking it up into big sections is if you want to get proportions right, you can measure with your pencil or whatever you're drawing with. So for example, hold your pencil arm's length to this part, the top of the lower part of the falls, and then with your thumb, decide how far down it is, and then measure the top falls and see how much smaller that is compared to the bottom. You can do that width-wise, you can do that height-wise, and that's one way that artists measure to get the proportions right. Now, you don't have to get the proportions right. Maybe you're just wanting to just dive in and do it a little bit more expressive. That's fine, but just an idea. So once you get those big things blocked in, then you take it one section at a time. For example, this top section, you see there's three smaller sections within this. Draw a line here, draw a line there. You've got it. That's really all you need to do. This little top waterfall might begin as a triangle, but then you notice, well, it's kind of level on top and it's actually broken into two sections because the rock formation here is informing how the water's falling. So I want to put a thought in your mind that sketching is not knowing. Sketching and drawing from real life, observational drawing, is asking questions. You're doing visual research, and you're asking, is this right? Is this right? Is this angle right? Is this shape right? And every line gets you closer to the right answer. As you practice more and more, you'll ask less questions because you'll know the process. But hopefully that makes sense. You're a visual researcher. And so there's no wrong answers. There's just more accurate answers as you go along. For example, the lower part of this waterfall, is that bigger or smaller than the top? Well, it's actually bigger. And actually, are they connected? Our brain would say, yes, they are connected. But visually, are they connected? They're not. That smaller one is way far over from the larger one that falls down. And when we're thinking of visual research, those are the answers that are the ones that will help enable our drawing. So I'm going to show you now. Okay. So this is a drawing that I did, just super simple. And I followed the same pattern. I started big and with the big shapes. And then I just started throwing in a little details in each section and then watercolored it. And really, that's all it was. Now, I've drawn this waterfall many, many times. So for me, it went a little faster. But when I first drew it, it took a long time. And there was a lot of adjusting with our tool of refinement, our eraser. Okay, now I want to show you really quick. I taught this to sixth graders. I teach at one of our elementary schools on Monday afternoons, and they only had 3 classes. These are not my art students. I get invited in by their teacher, and in 3 classes, I want to show you what they did. I taught them the drawing process. Start big, and then refine your lines, and then they watercolored it. So here's one. You can see their thought process. You can see that they were really focusing on the shapes, and they used geometric shapes, which is totally fine, but they were trying to define that area where the water splits and comes down. But notice they didn't connect the top from the bottom, which is excellent. That means they were looking at what they were seeing and not letting their brain say, well, wait a minute, this has to be connected because obviously that's the water source to the lower part. So excellent job on this one. Then we've got these 3. You can see that they went through that same process of really observing, getting those big shapes in, and then putting the details in. They decided to put their details in using colors and not lines. So you've got the rocks. Now, are these correct? Are these absolutely, identical to the? No, they're not. They're not. But so much learning took place. I'm so proud of these students. This middle one right here, they noticed that the rocks were darker on the sides of the water where the water had splashed onto the rocks, getting them wet. And they recorded that. They noticed that there was a bunch of little stones and rocks and that the layers were small and close together down in this area. And there actually was a little stream that curved around from the bigger part and then down into the other. Oops, just a second. So anyway, this student did a phenomenal job. Now, are there things they could still learn? Of course there are. They're learning. For example, the water wasn't blue. The water was white, but they decided to represent it blue. They just nailed a number of those things. And then other things, of course, they'll work on a little later. This one, you can totally see the big shapes. And I love this one because they did not look at these pine trees at the top and go, oh, those are pine trees. They saw it as a shape. And that's the beginning of understanding how to draw observationally. Then there's a couple that I was just so impressed with. This one just captured the feel and the beauty of the waterfall. Her shadows, and she just seemed to have a really knack. She caught on really quickly. And same with this student right here. Just the feel of that waterfall is just gorgeous. And again, these are 6th graders. These are 6th graders at a school that do not have art. And this was the 3rd class, just like 40 minutes each that I taught them. And they nailed it. Now, again, is it perfect? No, but they're learning. And we all start somewhere. So this is to encourage you to go for it. Go for it. Don't see yourself as, I can't do this. Don't let yourself get in the way. And hopefully, understanding that drawing from observation is a series of asking questions and putting lines down on a paper and asking more questions and noticing, saying, where do those rocks meet? Where does the waterfall spread out more? Why are there flat surfaces up here? Well, oh, they're bouncing off the rocks. Well, those rocks actually follow through. That layer follows. Oh, and then you start putting things together in a way that really is exciting. So I can guarantee you, if you slow down, take a deep breath, and follow that big shapes, medium shapes, smaller shapes, you'll impress yourself at what you can do. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful.